Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the podcast series. I am, of course, your host with the podcast mogul himself, Phil Better. And today I am happy to have the host, producer, and multiple creator and longtime podcaster, Jeff Revilla. I'm going to mess up. It's Revilla, right?
It depends on what part of the country you're from. The further northeast you go, it's a harder Revilla. If you go southwest, you get the Revillas and the Mr. Revilla. I get that all the time.
Revilla. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Revilla. Hey.
So I'm
That's
more
my
northeast.
Spanish impression. Yeah.
It's Revilla. Jeff, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. We've known each other a bit now, thanks to the Indie Pods community, and you were one of the producers of the Indie Pods Summit, which was an amazing event, and I was so thankful to be a part of. How about you give my audience a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, that is one of my favorite events. That's the second year. It is a marathon of an event. That's 5 days, 12 hours a day. Over 100 shows get produced, and it's a great time. We'll probably get into a little bit more about that. I've been a podcaster officially 2011. I got my first start. I started with a friend, and she actually went off to become like some marketing director for Ghirardelli chocolates, and I lost her like within like the first 3 episodes.
Damn.
So it was a good move for her. I'm always fascinated by her career. She's gone on to major wine companies, and she really lived that California lifestyle. But that's not about her, and I'm not going to give her any more credit. It's about me tonight. And about 2015, 2016, I started on this platform called Blab. Blab came around. Some people know about it, some people don't. It's okay. It was really the first live stream with 4 in a box, and it was incredible. You would start a show, and the way that Blab worked, within 10 seconds, it would force like 50 people into your room. It was just amazing the way that it notified people. And I started a trivia show. I'm like, oh, this will be fun. I got 50 people. I started doing this trivia show called Stuff I Never Knew. And I thought it'd be a great idea if it was themed, like stuff I never knew about apples, or stuff I never knew about cowboys, or Star Wars, or Back to the Future. And it just became this thing. I was like, well, wait a second. I don't know that much anyway. And to write a topic, write 60 trivia questions about a topic every week, that's a lot of questions to write. So instead of doing 8 contestants, I scaled it down to 4, and instead of doing 60 questions, I did 30. And went on to produce 100 episodes of that. And right now we're in a kind of a transition where we're morphing that into a made for television series. So we're still doing the podcast, and but I'm doing that for TV now. And my goal is live shows. So that's another thing that we'll get into. Is I have become an advocate for live podcasting, live streaming, live events. That's where I want to go, and that's where I see other ways for podcasters to scale their income, not just ads or reads, but there's tons of ways to monetize a podcast that don't even involve ads. So that's the direction I'm heading, and that's my future.
Oh, I love that. I love getting someone who's been in podcasting so long and actually thinks about the money side and how he can make money, or how he can help they can help other podcasters make money. And that's what you do with the Indie Pods, which we're going to touch on because it's an amazing event. And there's another one that's coming up strictly for females. We'll talk about that as well. So, you've been, like you said, you've been doing it since about 2015, since the Stuff I Never Knew trivia game show podcast. That's a mouthful.
I know. Well, every year that there's a new season, I add a word to the title. So It used to just be Stuff I Never Knew. Then it was Stuff I Never Knew Trivia. Then it was Stuff I Never Knew Trivia Game Show. And then it became the Stuff I Never Knew Trivia Game Show podcast. I think for year 6, I'm going to add extravaganza.
You should, guys. Just start adding random hyperboles into the title, and by the time you hit episode like season 700, it's like 4,000 words long.
Yeah.
It takes you the whole
knew.
episode. It takes you the whole episode to say the name of the show.
Yeah, it's stuff I never knew now, but I might know in the future if I keep studying hard and reading good. That's
There you go. There's the next season's title. So what made you decide to do a trivia game show as a podcast? Like, I've actually been on some trivia game shows,
Mhm.
which are interesting, but what made you decide to do a trivia game show as a podcast?
There's a great podcast. It started to come back too. It's called Good Job Brain. If you ever had a chance to listen to Good Job Brain, it's a phenomenal show. And during about 2015, 2016, they started to go through some life changes, having children and things like that. And they got away from producing regularly. I was such a fan of the show, I actually wanted to recreate that show. That was, when I told you it was a trivia show about themes, well, on Good Job Brain, they do themes for every episode, and all four of the people who host the show bring something that's related to that topic. So I kind of reverse engineered it into, I'll ask questions about a topic. But that I didn't have four friends. That was a problem. And writing
as a podcaster, that tends to be our problem. We don't have friends.
Yeah.
We like to be in a small room by ourselves, and then we reach out.
And then I like games. I like goofing around. I'm a big, funny, fun guy. Like, at least I think so. My wife doesn't, but I'm pretty funny. And so the ripping off the exact Good Job Brain format wasn't going to work for me. So I like trivia. I like games, and so it kind of morphed into a game show. It's not quite trivia. I know that because people who do trivia, like pub trivia and go to bars, they hate my show. They hate the questions I ask. They hate the things that I do. But people who like game shows and aren't like,
Stuck up.
yeah, yeah. They have a good time, and the people who come on the show, it's a great hang. We have a great time, and I get a lot of compliments on the show. Not so much the audio quality because it is a live show. We record it live, and my long-term goal is to do live shows like at a theater. You'll hear me talk about an infinite seat theater. That's what I think my future is. It's not just, hey, I can have an audience in front of me. I can have an unlimited amount of audience in front of me if I can live stream that same show to the world. So that's kind of the direction where that's how I started. I've done some live shows at a coffee shop. I've done some that we're putting together. I've done some at a conference. I've done some live streamed at a conference. So that I'm taking this, guy asking questions in his basement, and it's been growing, and it's still live, but now I'm really getting live, and I'm getting audiences, and I'm starting to stream that to the world. And that's the goal that I'm trying to get to.
Well, you have a TV show based on your podcast. Okay. Hopefully it's going to go better than the Zach Braff version of a show on podcasting. Based on that, it's trivia. I think you have a higher chance of succeeding. But yeah, that's insane. I can see you on stage pulling Steve Harvey type things, family on one side, and they're just asking the trivia.
And that is an element that I feed on anxiety. So on my show, I'll ask, and the question might have the same answer, like 4 questions in a row, and to watch somebody think to themselves, there's no way that this answer, could be China again. Like, he just asked 3 questions for the answer of China, and you watch just people break down, and like I like tearing people apart.
Were you a teacher by any chance at any time giving multiple choice questions? Because that sounds like something a teacher would do. It's all C, and everybody's like, it can't be C again. It can't be C again. And they're talking afterwards,
I'm just passing it on from the teachers who did that to me as a child.
You're just passing on the trauma, generational trauma from school. Okay, good to know. I'm never going on your show. There's going to be too much trauma, flashbacks, and shit's going to blow up.
Actually, I need a guest for tomorrow night if you're interested for the TV show.
Oh, I wish, but I'm what time?
It's 7 Eastern.
Oh, so sad. I'm working.
I talked you out of it.
Yeah, you said it's 4 questions on China, and it's always China the answer. I'm like, no. Last time I dealt with China, I was in trouble.
Uh-oh. Bum, bum, bum.
So you created a show off of the wanting, in essence, of having a good job brain continue, but they weren't because of life, and it happens,
Yeah.
But you're transitioning into TV. Now, what is that like, transitioning from doing live stream on YouTube, on Facebook, and those platforms, to knowing that your face could be viewed by millions of people?
Yeah, well, the one thing that we're doing is we're starting with the live stream element because we're adding multi levels to this. We're adding video elements, we're adding scoreboards, we're adding sound effects. So we're taking kind of what you can do on StreamYard and we're making it TV quality. It's still, we still have 4 people in a box, we're moving them around, we're popping up things, we have video questions. So we're adding some of maybe those Jeopardy elements, and we're able to do it. The long-term goal as these COVID restrictions subside and we can get into festivals and events is to do this on a stage at a festival, to do 4 episodes in an afternoon and then have work one time for 4 hours and my work is done for a month. Like that's kind of the efficiency that I think we can produce with doing a trivia show, doing a game show in front of an audience. I could do 4 shows and then take the winners from all 4 shows and have a final tournament with those 4 winners. And now I got 5 shows that I recorded in 5 hours and I don't have to work again for a month. Like that's the
dream.
that's
the
perfect.
4-hour work week,
Yeah.
well, the 5-hour work week, if you will, in live for a podcast.
Yeah, like if for example, I can run a theater or a space for $600 or $1,200, I can sell $10 tickets. You can watch 5 trivia shows. I can sell drinks. I can sell T-shirts, right? In one day, I could have this huge event. I can bring people in. I'm working, the 8 hours it takes me to set up for the day, plus probably another 8 hours in writing questions and prepping the show and setting stuff up. But then that's it.
You're done for,
I'm
and then
done
you're
for the
like, okay,
month.
peace out. I'll see you next month.
I'll see you in June. Yeah. So I mean that's one thing that we talk about. Everyone talks about monetizing a podcast, and everybody goes right to I could do live reads or I could insert an ad. But there's so much more possibilities when you take total control of that production. When you start to think about, okay, well, maybe I could run this in front of a live show, then I could sell tickets. So I can sell tickets, $5, like old punk rock shows. Come see me. It's $5. You get 100 people, pay you $5. You just made $500 in a day, which is, I guarantee you, way more than 99% of podcasters are making. And that's easy to do.
Especially from ad reads. Especially from ad reads.
Yeah. So you can go to a coffee shop or a local pizzeria or a bar and say, hey, on Tuesday nights, you're kind of slow. Could I come in and set stuff up? And then if they'll split the door, sometimes they'll give you $50. They may just feed you wings and beer. So that's still a win, right? You're still making something.
Yeah, and also the business is getting free advertising because you're going to say it in your show.
Yeah.
So that's going to bring more people in the door. And it's just a win-win situation for both groups.
Absolutely. And then what? Maybe you get some T-shirts, you get some hats, you get some stickers. Let's hold on. I'm gonna knock them down. But I got stickers for $1. You want some stickers? Little vinyl cuts. You sell stickers, you sell T-shirts. All these things start to fund your obsession with first buying equipment, because that's what you do. You buy speakers, equipment.
Podcasting equipment is way more expensive than I originally thought.
Yeah. But I mean, you can for what I do for a bar show, you can get decent speakers and stuff for under 500 with poles. You get a mixer for under 500. You can get cheap mics on Amazon, 3 packs for like $60.
Yeah.
And you could set up a whole stage show for easily under 1,000. You could do it cheaper than that, but decently for around 1,000.
And some bars even have most of the equipment because they already do live shows.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, they used to have the guitar players or bands come in and do music and that. So
yeah.
So
if they have the PA already, guess what? Plug in your recorder to their PA. You're doing the live show. You're getting paid. You're recording the show, right? So now you can release that as your own podcast on the future episodes. So now you have the audio. You have another show that you can release, another thing that you can monetize later on. But now you've added different layers to how you can monetize the show.
Genius. Look at this. Just within the first 15 minutes of this episode, people are getting different ways to monetize your podcast. Most of the time, it ends up at the end of the episode. It's in the first 15 minutes.
I'm bringing it.
You're bringing the heat, buddy. You're bringing the heat.
Well, I'm passionate. This is what I want to do for my life. So this is where I'm going. I'm taking anybody who wants to come with me. We're doing it. I mean, that's kind of what Indie Pods is. It's that rising tide lifts all ships mentality. Yeah. Like there's 100 podcasts that like I don't know, happen in the virtual world, but they all like pounce on Indie Pods United, and we live broadcast 100 or 60 hours of shows over 5 days. It's just crazy, but that's what we want to. That's where I want to take all this.
So yeah, I want to talk about Indie Pods. How did you get connected with the Indie Pods Summit? Like, what was it? We've had Tina on previously talking about that before the Indie Pods event happened. She came on, she talked about it. Now we got the producer behind the scenes dude. How did you and Tina like connect? How did you decide like to help grow that Indie Pod?
I bothered the crap out of Tina. That's what I want to say. Like I said, I've been looking for something to do. Pandemic hits. I actually had my first live show scheduled. We were going to do free tacos. I'm sorry, it was $10 with all you can eat tacos, drinks, and I think we had stickers and T-shirts. It was a great $10 package, scheduled for March 30th, 2020. Oh. So we've been prepping it and producing it. Around the 13th, NBA's canceling, right? The 17th, Pennsylvania shuts down. So we realized, March 30th isn't going to happen. So that was my really big first live show, and we postponed it. And I'm just kind of sitting around. I know that this is like something I want to do, but there's just no way you're going to do it. And I started to hear those rumblings of Indie Pods. And Tina, this is Tina's baby. I don't take any credit for. There was a whole crew already assembled with Tina and Sean and Maria and Gerald. They were all there doing stuff, and Nigel was there too. And I was like, hey, hey guys, I'm just Jeff from Pittsburgh. If you need any help, like I'd love to help. And then Tina's like, okay, thanks. And I'm like, hey,
dismissively, thanks.
Yeah. Well, they were also like super busy in the middle of all this. And then I'm like, hey, just following up, hey, it's old Jeffers here in Pittsburgh. If you need some help, I'm glad to help you. And eventually we I get in, right? I get the claws in, and I just started picking up little things and helping out here and there. And the way that we ended up structuring this, we call it now pod chunks. If you look at like almost everything we do is in 3 hours. Even WIPU is in 3 hours, which we can talk about in a second. But we break all of our days into chunks, and we call them pod chunks. And that was kind of the structure behind how do we put 60 podcasts together. Well, we group them in like 3 hour segments, which is about 6 podcasts a segment. And that was kind of that was my contribution to Indie Pods, was pod chunks. And in that structure, and that's kind of how we've evolved from there. And this past year, we went from not just live streaming the Facebook groups, but we had a whole conference center, like an event center. We used StreamYard's bigger brother called Hopin, and we had a whole. It was beautiful. The main stage, we had breakout sessions, we had vendor booths. And it was first class all the way. So the Indie Pods 3 that we're going to try to do probably later this year. It's gonna be if 2 was as good as this was, 3 is gonna destroy.
Oh, I had so much fun on doing the talking about monetization and that for podcasters, and it was so seamless. It was amazingly put together. It was great fun, and if anybody has the chance, you guys were broadcasting onto a Roku channel, were you not?
We were going to. That didn't work out. Another thing about Indie Pods is, even though we put the event together, we don't claim or own any content. We record it all and we give it back to the shows for them to release. So we don't own your content. Like, that's yours. You did the show, you did it. You can use it in any way you want. So we don't take any credit. We're not trying to exploit anybody. Indie Pods isn't a moneymaker, so like we're not. we're not capitalizing on independent content creators. It really is this community of people who want to help everybody get to the next level.
Yeah, I feel like each year as you guys go, because I remember hearing about the first one. It wasn't as big, if you will, because it was the first summit, and then the second one I was hearing a lot more chatter about it. And I know the third one's going to be even bigger, and soon it's going to be like the podcast movement or the other bigger ones that are out
Yeah.
there that have thousands upon thousands of people joining and going to it, and it's only a matter of time. And like
Yeah.
Tina is an amazing person to put it all together.
Yeah, we still have like you said, like we probably have a couple hundred that are attending our conference already.
Mhm.
So, if we get to 400, 500, now we're getting serious. It's getting legit. And I think that's where we're going to be probably by the fourth one. I bet we're hitting the 500 mark in attendance easily.
Yeah, no, it's a great, and plus it's since it's an all day event, like people can come in and out, and it's
Or 3 all day events now.
three. Oh
We've
Jesus.
condensed it to 3. It's 3 all day events. Yeah.
Yeah, and if because it's not in person, no one's like, oh, I have to move my whole life out there. No, it's a virtual one. And are you guys planning on having a physical pod summit?
Haven't decided on a physical one. Yeah, we'd love to do some meetups, and we'd love to maybe break out and do regional indie pods, like a West and East Coast, West Coast would always be a good one too.
East
But
and West Coast. What?
one thing we were able to do this year, which is really unique for any conference I've been to, is the way that we're recording, and based on this chunk process. Almost all the sessions were available 15 minutes after they completed. So I've never been to a conference that you can get the recordings, but it's always like 7 days to a week later. We were releasing them in 15 minutes. So we have a huge advantage over a lot of conferences out there, because if you missed it and you still want to see it, you can see it 15 minutes after it's over. So we're pushing it live. It's behind the paywall. There's
Of
a
course.
replay section for people who have the tickets, but you can see those replays right away. You don't have to wait 2 weeks to see them.
That's what I think I like the most, is how quickly. So like, oh, overslept. I want to see this person's presentation. I don't have to wait 7 days. I can be like, oh, it's done already. I can jump in 15 minutes later. It's there. Boom. That was a huge reason why I wanted to be part of the indie pods, because of the quick turnaround. Because that's what you want for people. Because I was doing an early one because I'm a stupid person, like early times, and I know no one's going to be up at that stupid time. So the pressure wasn't on me so much. But yeah, I love the fact that
A little pro tip for the future: early and late are the best. There are the early birds like me. I mean, I'm there from 9 to 9.
you have no choice. You're there regardless.
But if you look at traffic, people show up early. They kind of do the things they need to do during the day, and then they come back in the evening. So the peak hours are those bookends. Because so if you were early, that's good.
Well, now I'm terrified. Luckily, I couldn't see how many people were looking at me directly, so that was a quite good thing. I do want, because you've been podcasting for so long, you're doing the live shows, you're an expert at that.
Dude.
What are some? Trust me, when I hear I'm an expert at podcasting, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
But apparently, if you've been podcasting longer than 3 years, you're an expert. What are some tips you have for someone who's just starting, someone who's like interested in starting podcasting but not really sure if they should?
My favorite tip, and it sounds terrible, is no one cares. And
Wow.
and let me tell you why. Let me tell you what I mean by that, because I was so afraid to hit that record button. I didn't like the sound of my voice. I'm from Pittsburgh, so most of my sentences sound like one word anyway, right? I'm running everything together. I have a lisp a little bit, like I have a little bit of a speech impediment, and I didn't think I sounded spectacular on audio, and that stopped me from recording. I was hung up on how I thought I sounded. I was hung up on how people would think, and the truth is, no one cares. If you record it, nobody has ever said anything to me about you sound dumb, you stupid Pittsburgher, or stop lisping. I have had more compliments on my voice. People say you have a nice soothing voice, a voice for radio.
So I'm in the same boat. I hate my voice, but that's from 10 years of working on the phone and having to listen to your voice and
Yeah.
getting critiqued about, you should have said this instead of that or this and this, right? So you grow to hate your voice, but everybody's like, Phil, you have such a good voice. You should do AMSMR. You have a radio voice. And I'm like, I can't. I just can't listen to my voice. So I get you on the hating
Yeah.
of the voice.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are hung up on getting started because they're afraid of how they sound. They're afraid of what people will think of them. And I promise you, people have bills to pay. People are stressed about driving to work. They have kids. They aren't thinking about the way your voice sounds. That is the least thing that your audience will think about, but it's the most common thing that people starting podcasting think about. So just know nobody cares what you sound like. Just do it. Hit record for that first time. Don't wait. Don't be hung up on it. Get to it and do it.
I love it. It's great events. Just do it. Like I think, apart from no one cares,
Yeah,
which
I
I
know.
think is kind of harsh. Like I'm like, well, where are you going with this, Jeff?
We're trying to help
But,
people here.
like,
We're
yeah,
trying to
no
help
one
people.
cares about how you sound as
Yeah.
long as you can enunciate your words at least intelligently enough. But yeah, it's like get started. I think that's the number one part that people have fear. Just get started because you never know where it's going to bring you, and the connections you make through podcasting is like I would never have thought I would be talking on a podcast summit stage about monetizing podcasts, and then all of a sudden here I am like 2 years later doing it. And I was like, what the hell?
What happened?
Yeah, when did this happen? you know um what's a pain point that you've had podcasting, like something that you want to warn people about and maybe how you solve that?
You got to figure out how to do things multiple ways. One struggle I've had because I was doing live streaming, and because live streaming was still in its infancy in 2015, 2016. Yes, you had literally had livestream.com was the place. And Blab became a thing, but Blab became unstable, and crashed and burned. And then you tried Google Hangouts and Appear and all these other platforms came and went. So the way you do things, be flexible enough to know how to do something another way, because if we're relying on technology that you don't own, which we all do, none of us own any of this technology really. Make sure you understand how to fill in a gap if something were to break.
It's a huge advice that is, as Jeff nearly dies coughing. Take your drink, it's fine, I'll do some talking right now. Yeah, knowing no, don't die. The last thing I need is someone to die on my podcast.
It'd be great for ratings.
The last episode of Jeff Rivilla. But yeah, no, having control, knowing multiple ways to solve a problem, because we are like, podcasting is just spit glue and hopes and dreams being held together. That's what a podcast is, unless especially when you're an indie pod. If you're being paid by one of those big corporations that have like thousands of dollars behind it, yeah, then you don't really have to worry about that. But if you're an indie podcaster, you have to know how to solve everything.
Yeah. Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Master of everything. I think I blew out my vocal cords on that cough. That was a rough one.
Yeah, you went really red. I was really worried for a second there. I was like, oh no.
For the listeners, I have the Cosmos behind me, and I matched this part of the Cosmos right here.
Yeah, you were matching that gas giant there.
Yeah.
Jeff, this is your like full-time job, right? Producing and doing that?
Not yet. It's my dream is to do
it's your
a
dream.
full-time job. I'm a marketing director in automotive. Full-time job. Part-time is what this whole production company, which I love the name. My wife hates the name. Another thing that my wife hates. I'm two for two. She hates my jokes. She hates the names of my company. But I started a name, and I love telling people for the first time because they just laugh like kindergarten giggle. And it's a simple 6-letter word. It has the word podcast, and also has the word duty in it, as in like civic duty, my mission. So it's pod duty, Poduty, PODUTY. See, you got the laugh going. That's what I want. I love that reaction. Paduty.com. That's the name of the production company, and it's really a central base for independent content creators. They can list their shows. You can review shows. I just launched it. This is probably like really the first time I'm really even talking about it. And there's also events. So I want to make sure that independent podcasters have a place to list their events. So it's totally free. You can list an event, say where you're, even if you're recording, it's platform agnostic. So it doesn't matter if you're going to do a live stream on Facebook or Twitch or at a coffee shop. As a content creator, you can list it wherever it's going to be and put a link to it. 100% free to do. That's all. I just want to get the word out there and help content creators just share that wealth and pass that knowledge along.
That's awesome. I love that.
How
love
about
that.
the name? Do you love the name?
Oh, the name is amazing. I love the name, and I kind of
Paduty.
want a sticker now that just has like Paduty
Paduty.
on it, and people can be like, "What? I know."
Because it doesn't look like it says duty when you see Paduty, Poduty. But when you say it, you can't not laugh when you say it.
Yeah, I had like when you were like leading up to it, I'm kind of giggling. I'm like, what kind of name is it? And then you say the name, and I'm just like, God damn it.
Dates and deets at Paduty.com. That's what
There you go. Jeff, we're coming up to the end. I'm gonna jump off. Before we do, what is one show, one podcast that you suggest people listen to? That's not yours, of course.
I listen to a lot of maniac comedians. I love I think find a comedian that you like. Chances are right now through the pandemic, they've all started podcasts.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I don't listen to them, and I don't necessarily like their stand-up. What happens with comedians is they have to, I don't know, I'm not going to swear, but you have to eat crap for 10 years to be a great stand-up comedian. You have to travel the country. You have to bomb in theaters. You have to figure out what works and what doesn't. And I don't want to say that they're crazy, but they have they're cut from a different cloth.
Big time.
And they have a drive that you just don't see. Like, you don't see in a lot of people. So when you hear their road stories, when you hear how they tell you how a joke came together, when you hear, just their process, and you hear some of the stuff from the business, you can learn so much from a comedian's podcast that you can apply to your own podcast and the direction that you want to take it in. There's just great tidbits of information that they don't even realize that they're giving away. Like Whitney Cummings, Bert Kreischer, Bill Burr. Listen to their podcasts. They are telling you how they produce stuff, and they don't even realize it. And that's helping me, put Paduty together. And because I'm listening to what they're saying, and I'm hearing the struggles that they've gone through, and it's a great tip for anybody. Listen to some comedians.
I love it. It's great, and it's true. Like listening to Two Bears, One Cave with Bert Kreischer and
Mr.
Segura himself. Like those are great. Like listening to Segura's podcast by itself, not so much. Bert Kreischer, not so much, because it sounds like it's the same people going around just promoting stuff, but having them together when they talk about like the world of comedics and stand-up is just amazing. So yes, I have to fully agree with you, Jeff. Listening to comedics podcasts and they just reveal all their secrets.
Yeah, they tell you everything.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like when podcasters get together, they reveal all their secrets. I don't understand it.
And really, and truthfully, I use this analogy all the time. I'm trying to do for podcasting what comedy clubs did for comedy in the 80s and 90s. Like, I think I'm at a point where podcasting needs those small clubs, needs to tour in small clubs. But yes, there are people filling theaters with podcasts, but who's serving us, right? Who's serving people who draw 20 to 100 people, not 20,000 people? Who's serving the 400 club audience? Now, comedy clubs are starting to fill that void. They know, like, comedy clubs are like, hey, wait a second, on a Tuesday night when I can't get anybody to buy comedy tickets, I could get Sniper Wolf in here at $200 a ticket, do a meet and greet, right? So they're starting to see that there is potential here with independent podcasting, and that's where I'm heading. I want to do for podcasting what comedy clubs did for comedy in the 80s and 90s.
I love it. I love how you already have a great vision for it. I'm going to let you finish coughing and dying for a second. And take your sip of water and before we go. Jeff. I think you should lay off the comedy podcast because you're already too funny as it is. Jeff, I'm going to jump off the screen. I'm going to let you have the last little bit. Tell us where we can find your podcast, how we can connect with you. The floor is yours, sir.
One of the things, it's funny you say I'm a funny guy. For Halloween, I actually, because we were social distancing, I put a table of combos in the street, and I had a microphone and a speaker, and I was just heckling everybody. That was a lot of fun. My name's Jeff. You can find me, the company that I'm really focused on right now. I'm really into production. It's Paduty.com. I'd love for you to go there, list your podcast, totally free. You can add video, you can add links, you can add anything you want. There's no charge for it. You can also go and put an event if you want to do a live stream. If you're going to go try what I'm telling you, go to a coffee shop, go to a pizza shop, list your event. It's totally free. I hope to see you at Indie Pods. We're going to be doing a lot more events. I'm doing a trivia and game summit. If you like goofing around, if you think this was crazy, we're doing 3 nights, about 3 to 4 hours per night coming up in April. And those tickets are $15, $5 a night. There's going to be about a dozen different trivia and games podcasts. Not just, you don't hear my voice the whole time. There'll be a whole bunch of other people. I'll be the least part of that show. But 100% of that tickets go to the creators. There's nobody else getting the money but the content creators who participate in that show. It's a trivia and game summit. You can find that on Paduty.com. Dates and deets at Paduty.com.
You just wanted to say Paduty as many times as you can. The name of this episode is going to be Paduty.com.
It's funny that if you got to get out of here, you got to get out of here. I'll keep talking. Paduty is a 6-letter word. I bought that domain name in 2020, right? At the December of 2020 is when I bought it, and I registered and created a company. And the Facebook.com/Paduty was available, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. And I'm like, you know how hard it is to get a 6-letter domain name?
Oh, yeah. It's close to impossible now.
Yeah, it's so rare. And I'm like, this is what I love to do. It's kind of funny. I'm a goofball anyway. And, for doing silly events. And I think this has potential. And it's ramping up now. Like, it's been a year in progress putting all these pieces together, but it's getting there. And I think it's going to be spectacular.
I love it. Jeff, I want to thank you so much for being an amazing guest. And I'm looking forward to we didn't even touch on the women's indie pod event that's coming up. That I'm definitely sure is going to be on Paduty.com.
That's you can see there. It's on Paduty.com. There's a link to register. We still need a couple more speakers. If any female podcasters out there, Tina and Maria are running that show, and we'll get you in there. We're looking for either inspirational, educational, or just want to run your podcast. We'd love to have you. Submit a application.
Excellent. Of course, everybody, as you're listening to this, the show notes will have all the links to connect with Jeff. Check out the Indie Pod Summit, the female Indie Pod, women Indie Pod Summit going on as well. I want to thank Jeff again 100 times. Thank you so much for being an awesome guest. Yeah, Jeff's counting right now.
I got 5 down.
You got 5 down. You got 5 on the other hand, and then you're good. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to invest in yourself. And like Jeff says, no one cares what you sound like as long as you put content out there. Happy to listen. So Jeff, again, thank you so much.
You're welcome very much. Thank you. I was going to add one thing, but I was like,
go ahead. Come on. Don't leave us hanging.
When you reminded me, I said, no one cares. I was also, you sparked a reminder about something Bon Jovi once said, which was, don't bore us, get to the chorus. Which I've also found is very important in podcasting. You don't have to do, a 45-second intro all the time. You don't have to do, how was your week? Get right to whatever your show's about, get to it. Don't bore us, get to the chorus, and then I'm out.
There we go. All right, here's the exit.